Welcome to Pixalearn. We offer expert-led courses for CPA, EA, and other professional certifications to help you advance your career.
Good morning, everybody. Today we are going to do a very simple topic. We have just introduced you to the concept of how the entire audit process looks like. Before we start talking about the engagement acceptance and whether would you go and sign an engagement letter, let us simply talk about a small topic called quality management. How does a firm assure that they have been able to adhere to all the requirements of all the standards that the firm is subjected to? For a very simple example, let's consider how do you ensure that every team member is adhering to independence. So we know that audit cannot be done unless and until you are independent. So how is the firm assuring that every single intern or a CPA or a reviewer who is associated with a particular client is adhering to the independence requirement? How do you do that? How do you ensure that people are not disputing or people are not abiding by certain professional standards? So this is where the firm as a whole becomes very important. Now, this is an important standard for you guys because this year, quality control underwent a change. Earlier, it used to be called Statement on Quality Control Standard. Now they replaced it with a more holistic, risk-based Statement on Quality Management Standard. So, what are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about a couple of things. We are going to first talk about what is this standard, what has undergone a change, where it has undergone a change. Then we're going to talk about specific components. Now, please understand that earlier there used to be 6 components, but they have added 2 more components, and now we have total 8 components where the firm has to pay attention to. Then, of course, we're going to talk about engagement quality reviews, and this was for the firm as a whole. This is for individual assignments that govern a particular engagement. And then we're going to move to issuers audit. Okay. So this is all by AICPA actually. And now we have the issuers, which is the PCAOB. And in the end, I've just given you a brief summary. Now, please remember that we have shifted from control to management. Okay. So this is a more holistic concept to managing the quality in a firm. Why was this change required? Because earlier we had a more checklist-driven, static quality control, concept, which had only 6 components, and also it used to focus on compliance. And it was something like these are the 6 steps. Each of these 6 steps, just see how they're being followed, and we would tick it, and we would be sorted. The problem was that it was something which used to be same even for a mid-sized firm, a big firm, a very small firm, there was no change. So now we have 2 decades of PCAOB having worked, understood, carried on inspections. So we kind of evolved into a new standard, which we felt was very important. And we said that just like you have an enterprise risk management, where for the client you have a more risk-based approach, similarly for the firms, in order to understand what could go wrong, rather than following one checklist, why not make it a risk-based approach? First, understand what could go wrong, and then design your response to those risks. Here we've added 2 more components and made it total 8 components. And very importantly, we've added risk assessment. These are not reactive models. These are proactive models, which makes you understand, okay, this is where the problem could be. Now let us address that problem. With the changing environment for audit, now we have AI coming in. We are taking a lot of help of the systems in order to do the audit. There are remote auditing happening. There's robotic, we have this process automation audits that are happening. So we need to have a quality control standard that aligns with the international standards and at the same time takes care of this evolving audit scenario. Also, see, now we have history, as I told you. Technology is rising. We need a more globally consistent standard, which is an adherence to the international standards also. Also, we are emphasizing a lot on monitoring. How do you ensure that we are continuously monitoring our firm's quality? Okay, The first thing is, so see, the AICPA, basically we will be talking about SQMS 1 and 2. Conceptually, I don't think they're ever going to ask you what is 1, what is 2, but conceptually you need to know a couple of things. The most, please first of all understand that this area is highly likely not to be tested in the SIMS. It would be tested more at the MCQ level. So every single question becomes important. The most favorite of most examiners are first. This is not for individual engagement, it is for the firm as a whole. And also, if there's something wrong with the firm's quality control, it does not imply that the audit opinion that you're giving is wrong or that the audit report that you're signing on is incorrect. So these are the two most tested MCQs in this area. So first, it is replace the old standard. These set of standards, the quality management standards, are applicable for the firm as a whole. But at the same time, it is applicable only for accounting and auditing services. So we studied about preparation, compilation, examination, audit. All of those, a test or non-test, would have the requirements of quality control. However, we are not making it, we're not applying it to tax and consulting engagements. As usual, we are not looking for an absolute assurance, we're only looking for reasonable assurance. If there is an engagement quality review, the report has to be released before the report release date. So you'll see later that, let's say I am doing the audit of TISCO. The requirement says that, let's say partner A, who's sitting in Calcutta, is signing on the TISCO report. But before that report is actually released to the client, there has to be another partner, maybe from Hyderabad, who would come and have a look at that partner's report, would have a third eye view of everything that has gone into major areas where judgment was involved before finally releasing the audit report. This is important. The engagement quality review report has to be submitted before the final report release date. The firms must annually evaluate whether the quality management system is indeed achieving the quality objectives or not. Document, ensure that there's proper communication. So you will see of the two elements that have been added. Risk assessment is very important. Communication, information has been added. Okay. Okay, very importantly, we are saying don't have a static checklist. Please follow a risk-based approach to doing the audit. Okay. So, it's important that understand where could be the possible areas of risk. So imagine a scenario where COVID happened and probably the firms, the kind of clients who were there earlier kind of moved away from the client. And now the situation is so grim that you've now just incentivized your partners, saying you bring as many clients as you want. But is there a possibility that the partners may end up bringing clients who lack integrity? In that case, we need to understand what is the risk. So please don't make it a static checklist. Keep evaluating where you could possibly be going wrong and then address your quality control measures to ensure that those deficiencies do not remain. Design and implement the responses. See, if you would have seen the ERM framework, the Enterprise Risk Management Framework, it's exactly the same. Now we are following that for the firms also. Monitor to understand what could go wrong, and whatever you've devised, whatever you've documented, and whatever you feel should be implemented is actually working and is relevant or not. Okay. And ultimately, wherever you find the holes, please plug them. Okay, this is the most important slide, guys. Okay. I've given you a small acronym so that you can use it. As usual, my acronyms, if there are only in caps, then you know that each individual one is dealing with a particular element. So monitoring of risk, help the client to get the info. It's a simple acronym. 8 components: monitoring, risk assessment, human resources. See, you will have. So I've given you in order, but actually if you look at the concepts, we start from leadership and then we do these. So it's not hierarchical, it is more on the acronym. So we have human resources, we have ethical requirements, we have leadership, which is actually governance and leadership that establishes the tone at the top. Then we have performance. How are you going to perform that engagement? How would you accept the client? And how would you disseminate information throughout the firm? Okay, so ideally, conceptually, we start with the tone at the top, where there has to be people who are assigned the responsibility of ensuring that quality management is taken care of in the firm. And it becomes a kind of firm-wide culture. There has to be training, there has to be adherence to the requirements of the firm, and make sure that the tone at the top is prone to spreading quality and not accepting any kind of deficiencies in the quality management. Once you set up with the tone at the top, then you need to do the risk assessment. Okay, every year you need to understand where can be the possible areas where the firm's quality can be compromised, and then design proactive responses to address those quality risks. Please understand that this is a new element which has been introduced. Now, once you do that, see, even before that, you have to recruit the right kind of people, train them, hire them. So the recruitment has to be proper, ensure that they have been properly trained, they have enough technical ability, and they're ethical in order to take a particular client. Also, ethics is very important. So see, tone at the top, ethical requirements, human resources. These are stuff that are applicable for the entire firm at a holistic level. And this is the most important thing. After that, we do risk assessment, and then you see that every single assignment that you do is to be according to the requirements of all the standards that the firm is exposed to. So engagements per professional standards, ensure that the reports are appropriately issued, appropriately worded. If there are any differences in opinion, let's say between the engagement partner and the quality review partner, ensure that we have, you resolve those objectively. Have proper supervision, review, and proper documentation. So you will see in most audit firms, guys, they actually follow this. They have the system of somebody doing the work, and then there's a reviewer who would come and review the work of the main CAs or the CPAs or the interns, and then there would be second review by the partner. So you already have this. Just ensure that all of the rules, requirements that had to be followed is actually being followed. This is important. Ensure that you're not accepting clients who lack integrity. Ensure that you have enough people taking the job that is required to be done. Say, for instance, if Neuralink, Tesla's, Elon Musk's company would come, and you have no idea what business they're into, and you have no time to prepare for that nature of business, chances are you should not be taking that client. So it's not a requirement that you need to have a technical degree, but it's very important that you should feel confident of understanding the business of the client, understanding requirements that you are supposed to be followed, requirements that you have to follow in order to do the work. And this is important. They've introduced the information in the company. So can you see it's very similar to the internal control framework also that internal control framework that you do at the client's place, more towards the risk assessment, the ERM framework. So it was not there earlier. It's a new one. So risk assessment and information and communication with the new one that got introduced. And please communicate quality externally and internally. So this is very important. Most of your MCQs would be stemming from this slide. Okay, now we have something which is the engagement quality review. So you know that every client who's signed up has a partner allotted. That partner is called the engagement partner. You would know a little bit more about it in the next session where we actually talk about what is the engagement letters content, how do you accept a particular client, what is the role of the engagement partner. All of that we'll be doing subsequently. But it's important for you to know that there is a requirement for the engagement quality review, and that review has to be performed, quote unquote, before the report release date. And that reviewer, who's the engagement reviewer, quality reviewer, has to evaluate all the judgments which was significant, which was made by the engagement team, and how did you arrive at the conclusion. So most dicey areas are claims, going concern, provisions, any such thing which the engagement team would have spent a lot of time because it involved judgment, and now that objectivity has to be checked by the engagement reviewer. Required for so this is not something where you have to understand which are the engagements which will require an engagement quality review. Okay, who can be the engagement quality reviewer? Maybe outside this. So must be outside the engagement team. So it may be, so for AICPA, you can have an engagement quality reviewer who is another partner in the same firm, but must not be the engagement partner of that firm. Must consider threats to their objectivity. Please ensure that there's no kind of conflict of interest which is involved. There are cooling off periods. You will know more about it when you go to ethics. But yes, you should not be the person who has done the work and the person who's reviewing the work. So there has to be a cool-off period. Okay, and of course, comply with ethics. What is my job as a quality reviewer? I have to make sure that I gave an opinion on most of the significant judgments, the conclusions which are reached. The idea is that it should be objective. It should be free from bias. Okay. So review the engagement report before it is issued. Assess whether the documentation has been properly made, and review the significant risk and the responses that have been. And please understand that's a compulsory requirement. You cannot release the report before the engagement quality reviewer submits his or her own report. And document everything. Just give me 1 minute, guys. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, now we move to something which is the engagement level work. So what is the responsibility of the person who becomes the engagement partner? Now, more on this when we are actually going to talk about the engagement partner and the responsibilities in the subsequent lecture. But just to give you an idea that at the engagement level, there has to be an engagement partner which would be assigned to every single audit, who must ensure that people in his or her team have required technical expertise and the experience to take up a particular client. For every engagement, there must be a quality review for which the report has to be issued before the report release date. The engagement team has responsibilities. Most important is the ethics. Make sure that everybody who needs to be independent is independent. Do the work as per the requirements, proper communication, and proper documentation. Okay, now please understand that this quality review is for the individual engagement. It is not for the PAN firm engagement as we were discussing earlier. Okay, so this is exactly what I am referring to. Okay, now we come to PCAOB. Okay, PCAOB again, very importantly, again, this is the year when they also underwent a change in the quality control, and they said that we no longer call it quality control, we will call it quality management. Even they have 8 organizational components, which is very similar to what the AICPA has already adopted. Okay, now here this is important. You need to have, if there is a firm who is doing the audit of more than 100 large firms, in that case, there has to be the engagement quality control function that has to be performed by an outside the firm. Okay, so one or more independent persons exercising independent judgment on the quality control system. Ethics is okay. You have to ensure that this proper certification, and ultimately there is monitoring, right? So engagement level monitoring has to be there. The quality control system level monitor. So there's an engagement level review and there's a system review to ensure that all the requirements of the quality control has been followed or not. Okay. There's a very good summary that I've given you. It is just for your understanding of what was there earlier, what is there now, and where is it that the AICPA changes are, is different from the PCAOB. Just go through it, whatever sticks. Okay. Now see, this typically talks about a typical monitoring loop that the firms have to follow, design the inspection program, perform the inspections, and then evaluate your findings. In case if you find any loopholes, you'll have to bridge it up and ensure that in future it does not occur. And most importantly, report. Everything document. Okay. I've given you a very good summary of everything that's important. Remember, all of this is related to the AICPA, and this is for the PCAOB. So this is all for the AICPA. This is for the PCAOB. Okay. See, mostly, as I told you, this is a very simple area to be taken care of only for the MCQs. Go through the MCQs and lead your studies on the basis of the MCQs that you have solved. Okay, 8 components, 2 new components being introduced this year. the individual engagement level quality control review that the review report has to be submitted before the report is released, and ultimately we go to PCAOB. That's it. Thank you.